buying more than producing and making money, they're doing something that the currency is not using. I literally get a shop.
Welcome to the live coverage from the University of Limerick of the World Masters Ultimate Club Championships. You are tuning in to what is set to be an incredibly exciting matchup. We have the Grand Master Mixed Final, Surly GMX versus Molasses Disaster from Field 11. I am joined in the booth. My name is Gigi Morrison. I should probably start off with that by the legendary Lorcan Murray. Lorcan, how are you feeling this afternoon?
I'm feeling fantastic in my brand new hat, provided by the one, the only Bondi, Dave, and we have quite the matchup ahead of us. Two real powers coming from a lot of history, a lot of skill, a lot of experience. On the one side, we have the Molasses Disaster, coming out of Boston, hoping to play that sickly, sweet kind of deadly that they have become eponymous with. And on the opposite side, we have Surly GMX Grandmasters Mix, coming out of Minneapolis, Minnesota, but drawing from people all across the United States who have connections back to that beautiful Twin Cities in the north of America. So a real Midwest flavor team. It'll be quite exciting to see how they match up. They both like to go with a lot of match defense, not too much zone. As people more familiar with the Grandmaster Mixed Division in America, or its lack thereof, Grandmaster Mixed Division in America, can understand. Haven't had a huge amount of time to practice together. Really have been learning about each other, learning how to play together throughout the course of this tournament. So now we will see how those lessons play out on the field in the final.
Molasses starting out on offense. Disc finding the center of the pitch. There is an immediate pick with Canetti with the disc in hand. Currently Canetti, one of the leading O-line handlers for Molasses. Checked in, centered immediately to Cook. And across over to Kaplan. Kaplan, another name that we will be saying very often on this stream. Molasses not finding it too difficult to get the disc moving, finding some smooth, silky offense, and that is on the second reception. Canetti unable to come up with it. Surly now have the opportunity for a break. Very colorful black and rainbow shirts. That disc is soaring. It is soaring so far out of bounds. Very close to the pathway. Molasses have the scapegoat of that turnover. Thankfully, the rain has died down a little bit for both of these teams to stay dry, or at least drier than about 20 minutes ago, where it was thundering down with rain.
Literally thundering down with rain, but no lightning, so we get to stay out here and welcome you to this fantastic final.
So Kinley having to rise, gets it on the second reception. Kaplan on the under. Kaplan finds the leading throw to Anderson. Not very many cuts being generated. Anderson regretting that throw instantly.
So a few quick turnovers to open this match up as they get to know each other and get to know the elements. It has become a common idiom, that old adage, if you do not like the weather in Ireland, wait 5 minutes, and every 5 minutes it seems like something changes in the air. So we will see if that is reflected on the pitch. Quick turnovers and Surly Grandmasters mixed with the disc.
York in affectionately known as Coffin Corner, and that is in the grass.
So, Molasses Disaster with a chance to get a quick explosion and score to open this match up.
So Canetti swiftly moving to the disc, taking his time, making sure that Molasses are set up, ready to go in a vertical stack. It's an isolated player, but finds Cook really comfortably in the front of the end zone. Easy as it comes.
So in the end, they get the offensive hold. A couple of turnovers for both sides, but Molasses are able to hold on. Nice shutdown defense in the end zone. Slightly bit of a miscommunication. Maybe some nerves as they are here on the stream. And we need everybody who is back at home to really help lift them up. Both sides, join us in the chat. Join us cheering on your respective Grandmaster mixed pick. So we have another look at the quick pop pass for the score. That's a fantastic cut.
Yeah, that looked a little too easy. The pop pass in the end zone for Molasses. We saw them on stream yesterday in their semi-final. Them winning pretty comfortably against Hijinks.
Which was quite surprising. Hijinks had been quite an impressive team so far, really bringing the power, I believe, out of Texas. And shows you the real strength and depth that Molasses have to bring to bear in this matchup. Something that is going to be really difficult to deal with on the best of days. And unfortunately for Surly, they are currently down several key players and looking to represent them and rise to the occasion in their absence.
Surly getting the disc moving. There is a stoppage, a pick. Thankfully, hand signals being used effectively, so we know what's happening. The numbers on the back of the Surly kit is not as easy to read as we would like here. Disc back in. Inside, across to Brayshaw. There are some cutters isolated in the middle. That is well read. Bailey looking immediately deep, but smacked down instantly by Durling.
So an unfortunate turnover as they look to go deep with the wind in their favor ever so slightly.
So Flynn pivots, throws, miscommunication, a slight error. Gives Surly the short field. Hunt knocking on the doorstep, and they do find a receiver, giving the trading hold downwind. We've seen this quite a lot in pitch 11. There is an upwind, downwind direction. A lot of teams have been trading, and we are starting to see this already matched up at 1-1.
So it's a close one, and we can expect a lot of turnovers in this matchup in the early exchanges as they slowly find their feet. We have another quick look here. Following another short field turnover on the left-hand side of the pitch. Surly taking their time, not trying to force anything. And then a nice little over-the-top backhand. That is Daniel Hunt throwing it to Graham Brayshaw. Hunt has been absolutely essential for this Surly offense throughout this tournament, with that making it his 15th assist, along with 5 goals for 20 big-time stats as they look to power them forward. But talking to Surly before the matchup, something they wanted, or they're aware of as they try to adjust to the new force that they're facing, is they're currently missing 7 key players, 6 of them women, due to COVID, which is unfortunate and causes a quick restructuring, as over a week you develop your offense. They were huge in getting them through the semi-final, so we'll see how Surly can bounce back and react on the offensive end, but for now they're on defense.
So Canetti finds Cook into Finn. Ferguson moving it off to Canetti. Molasses are not afraid to use this break side. The easy under on Anderson. So they seem to be forcing Molasses underneath. They know that the deep space can be more dangerous and they use it, but it is much better defended, much better read by Oakdal. And Cook intercepts right in the way. Complete denial. York did not have the chance to get to that at all.
So again, another turnover on the left-hand side of the pitch as teams are struggling against the conditions and the tight defense.
Canetti inside flick intended for the receiver. Neubecker had a good read, but that was very difficult to catch.
A disc spinning that quickly in these kinds of conditions, you're going to need some top quality equipment like friction gloves to make sure you can corral those points.
Again, stuck in the coffin corner, but moves off, finding Ike. Slimmer moves it across to Munsterhaus. Surly not finding the upwind. Anything too tricky for them. Fakes the hammer. Fakes the around backhand. Instead takes the easy open side flick. Slocott now rising defense is doing such a good job in shutting it down. Nord takes the inside backhand to Slimmer. Having to readjust. York does eventually. Huge bid from Canetti, puts off the receiver.
Massive phantom D, as some people would call it. I think that does a discredit to the incredible effort that people put in to try and dissuade those shots, taking a look into the end zone. But in the end, the only person getting anywhere near that was Canetti.
You can see as he landed, looked up, saw that the disc was still continuing to fly, despite the fact that he didn't get any fingertips on it. He was elated.
The agony of watching a disc just escape your outstretched hand, something I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with.
Not very many options to get this Molasses offense started. Having to go for a quick dish. There seems to be some sort of discussion, an uncontested foul.
So that's a fresh 10 as well, so they can reset, restructure, and resume their offensive efforts.
Canetti does find the receiver in Finn. Neubecker, high disc, does get to it this time. The rain starts to come down again. Disc getting slippy, but not too slippy for Oakdal. Rising to that one. That wasn't York. And Neubecker in the end zone. The second attempt does get it this time.
Another huge score for Neubecker. That is her 20th goal of the tournament. You can see how crucial she has been all tournament long for this Molasses disaster team. A team who are, yes, in case people are curious about it, named after the infamous 1919 molasses factory explosion that happened in Boston, where 32 people were killed instantly by the sugar pouring down the streets. The health dangers of glucose becoming even more pronounced in that moment, but now being used as a moniker for an ultimate frisbee team. So legacies survive one way or the other. 2-1 to Molasses disaster. Still holds turns aplenty on either side, so it shows you this is going to be a tight affair as Surly continue with their offense, which is going to be more male-led, as they only have, I believe, 6 available women. And we really want to give a shout out to the fans back in the hotel. That's JZ, Robin, Susie, Sarah, Rachel, Jill, and Eric as well. So you got to send that love, you got to send that energy in through the chat and cheer on your Surly teammates in this crucial final.
Bailey has Brayshaw. A lot of cuts, cutting across and slicing from the break side to the open. Ike, bright blue headband. Bailey surveying his options. Doesn't have much that he likes in terms of open cuts. Does eventually find one. Wide open dump, doesn't take that option. Does eventually find Bailey. Bailey looking for the inside flick. That was beautiful. And in the end zone, the inside flick being the story of that point, it really opens up the pitch and proves effective for Surly, bringing them level to 2-2.
And key in that point for Surly was a man we're going to see a lot of in this game, I imagine, Andrew Exley. We've certainly been seeing a lot of him throughout this tournament. That's number 5. As we're going to have another quick look. The inside breaks 2 in a row. Fantastic movement. Great shot. And once again lines up with Graham Brayshaw. And he's going to look for the same shot again. A smooth, comfortable inside break. So Surly very much still in this 2-2 and looking confident. Both teams starting to really settle down in this matchup, Gigi.
Yeah, it's definitely important for both of the teams to try and stay confident and stable in the systems and structures that they know. So we've seen a lot on this field. We'd have one team being extremely dominant. They're taking on the aggressive options despite whatever conditions that they may have, whether that is the defense or the weather. And whenever they do start to be confident, they take on the long shots, they take overheads, they pull away a lot faster compared to teams who are more conservative. But both of these teams showing that they can take the break side on Canetti. Kaplan finds Kinley. Kinley looking instantly deep, has Ferguson. But the defense gets in the way. There is a call. That was Nord on defense with the read.
So Nord, a big man, and he looked to go up there while still maintaining or allowing for the space above the offensive player's head. That is the rule. You're entitled to that space. You're not allowed to put your body into it. But you can just sneak a cheeky little hand, and that's what Nord was going for. We're going to have another look at the deep shot. Smooth sailing. Certainly looked like it was destined to land in its scheduled port of arrival in the form of number 51, Michael Ferguson. And that call is retracted and the turnover called. So a big moment for Surly's D-line if they can work it down the pitch and get a break, putting themselves into a comfortable position.
Dis checked in, takes the sliding knees of Österreich. There's a violation call.
We always appreciate the hand signals being used, whether they're indicating a travel or maybe just enjoying a little bit of disco to stay warm during the calls.
I mean, I'd hope they'd not be dancing with the hand signals. That is when it gets confusing for us.
Save that for the party tomorrow night in King John's Castle.
Do you have any facts about King John's Castle?
Yes, it's a giant castle in Limerick.
Thank you. That is all I needed to know. And just as we got that fact, Surly tried to get back on offense. That was a blocked flick. Canetti moves quickly to pick it up, dumps it off to Ferguson. Ferguson moves across the pitch. Palmer in towards the end zone, but a much better read. Gets the pivot set up inside the end zone still.
Daring.
That was Slimmer. Looking deep. Well read by Wen. Wen receives again. Didn't like any of the options he saw downfield, so instead took the dump. Groman. A big pick as the stack starts to get really clustered.
You can really see the depth of this Surly side coming out of Minneapolis initially. So utilizing every player available to them, as few as that is.
Nord having to go over the top. had when, but the Molasses defenders read that much better.
It's going to be tough to get those inside breaks into the end zone when you're going from left to right. They're going to sit up. They're going to hang in the air. Surly got tantalizingly close to getting the first break of the game, but it is still just 2-2. The Molasses going the opposite direction.
We had cuts downfield, but they were still too deep. They found Kaplan. Now Hibbard. Hibbard dumps over to Canetti, finding Ferguson. Really using the entire width of this pitch. Kaplan looks to the end zone and has Palmer there. Finally, Molasses get another hold. That was a little bit of a slog from both sides.
Little bit of a slog, but in the end it is textbook offense that finishes it off. A beautiful swing, and a massive gain for sending into the end zone for the score. Let's have another look at the way they set this up. Beautiful swing around to Ferguson. And such a gainer, and that's something that you don't always see at the end of a swing. The whole point of moving it across the pitch is so the defense gets stuck on the opposite sideline, and you open yourselves up for a massive gainer. So Molasses disaster go 3-2 up, but it's all offensive holds despite all of the turnovers we've seen so far in this game.
And Kaplan, being a player that we will be mentioning a lot, doesn't have too many stats to her name. She only has 9 total stats, but she is one of these players that is like a silent threat. So rather than getting a bunch of stats on the board, she's somebody that will keep the disc moving for Molasses. And as we saw there, she was able to get the assist under her name. The backhand break side shot being on the money. Surly now having to respond, moving downwind. Bailey looking at his options, but sees a pick instead. Everything checked back in now. Exley finds the break option in Ike. His cuts from Surly are super smooth. Flying bid doesn't quite apply enough pressure. Bailey with a huge flick, looking for Exley in the end zone. Exley running out of room.
Yeah, unfortunately he's not 11 feet tall. Otherwise that would have been a fantastic towing of the line.
I feel like anyone that is about 11 feet tall requires their own division to play in.
It's unfair. You can play in the Giants division. Play against Yao Ming.
Flynn has the high disc to Rosinski. Rosinski, another receiver that they will be looking for a lot on this Molasses D line, and Ike has the better read of that one. Fantastic defensive positioning.
Lying in wait like a trapdoor spider.
They're completely deadly. Bailey having to go for the inside flick. That is a blade, does find Exley this time. Another hold. We're seeing a game of trades here, Lorcan.
Well, I imagine we will continue to see trades as these are two very evenly matched teams, but right now this is going to go back for a pick. Exley showing just what a threat he is downfield at all times, as well as Laurie Eck showing just how dangerous she is on the offensive end. Laurie Eck, of course, wearing, according to this font, her number is the letter O.
It does look like an O.
Like a lowercase O. Oh, they have in fact retracted that pick call, decided it didn't affect the play, although some people have decided it was okay to retract. They're going back to the game advisor. Surly, of course, coming from originally the Minneapolis area, and all those players, some as far away as Idaho, Michigan, even California, but they all have connections back to the Twin Cities. That's why they're representing them here. And if you look at those incredibly stylish jerseys that they have, that is a reference to Space Race, which is the IPA Surly Brewing Company produces that they are named after.
That is the second beer reference that we've had from a Surly side. So Surly Grandmasters, this great Grandmasters this morning are sponsored by brewers as well. one of their teammates is owns that brewery, so the brewery sponsored them.
Right, I was wondering how they wound up getting sponsored by a brewery.
I feel like it's not that difficult from Minnesota. There's a lot of breweries.
A lot of great beer. I'm going to have to go to Minnesota sometime, so. I hear it's very cold, though.
You are in Ireland, Lorcan.
This is a wet cold. This I can deal with.
This is a predictable cold.
Exactly. Snow, wind chill. Have you ever experienced wind chill? Not the team. I'm talking about the
Funnily enough, from
phenomenon.
Minnesota.
But it genuinely, wind chill, I can't take it. I was in upstate New York for a winter once, and I'm never going back.
Because of upstate New York or because of the weather?
Yes.
Brilliant. And as we see that, the play is going back to Bailey. Surly having another opportunity. Exley with the assist, but out of the reach of Ike.
And it's so tough. Normally you can rely on your fingertips, especially these elite players with their experience, to just snag and hold on. But when it's wet, when it's windy, that's just going to slip that little bit more. You don't have the same level of surface tension.
Seaver finds Flynn. Flynn running out of options, and a clap catch through the legs.
A lot of turnovers happening in this third of the pitch, as reaching back in time almost for that catch is Eck.
A fantastic grab. Another one for Ike. Eck, apologies.
I'm pretty sure you're actually right there. Ike is how I would say it if I was going for the German one. You can never tell. Sometimes the Americans, they have their own pronunciations for these. They've departed so far and so strongly from
Let us know
European
in
origins.
the comments.
Please do. Is it Eek, maybe? Because I'd certainly be saying Eek if I had to face her. Her defensive prowess, so difficult to predict. And then with grabs like that, so difficult to shut down as well.
Could she be wearing friction gloves, Lorcan?
Maybe she is. The World Flying Disc Federation is the international sports federation responsible for world governance of flying disc frisbee sports, including ultimate beach, ultimate disc golf, frisbee, guts, and individual events. And we are proud to be a part of this WFDF broadcast here at the World Masters Ultimate Club Championships here in Europe's premier sporting campus, the University of Limerick, with the always wonderful UltiTV crew.
That was a strange plug for friction, but I will take it. Thank you. We can see in the comments, Chris Palmer, you were originally rostered for, I believe, Molasses. So thank you very much for tuning in.
There's a certain chant for Molasses that we're not going to repeat, but feel free to spam the chat with it.
And Ferguson on the sideline has Canetti with a fantastic 7 cut. Canetti seeing a lot of deep shot options, does take that one in. Finn with a casual backhand, looking for Neubecker, does find her. Casual hold.
Casual backhand, comfortable collection. And we've seen a lot of those leading pass backhands where people bring them across their body. I always thought those were rather dangerous, especially because they're easier to break. But because of the excellent movement of these teams and their experience, you can see they gain that space with the fakes they create. There's a quick inside flick break, and then too much space moves the defender over, so she has all the time in the world to set up that pass to Neubeck in the end zone. Excellent stuff by Christina Finn. That is her 2nd assist of the tournament. And Molasses and Surly both said a big part of their offense is using every player that they have. And that speaks to the depth of both sides, the depths of the communities they come from, respectively the Boston community in Massachusetts, and then Minnesota, Minneapolis, and a greater Minnesota community as well. I believe the Minnesota community, one of the largest youth ultimate communities in North America, which is something always to be proud of.
It's always lovely to hear that even as a player that you're moving on through the age divisions, you are still wanting to help grow from the ground up, building the youth divisions, because obviously they are the future of the sport.
The sport grows strong when players build clubs on whose roster they will never play.
That pull soars out of bounds, which means it's going to be bricked. Brought in by Hunt.
4-3 right now, all offensive holds, despite what, in fairness, there's been a decent number of turnovers, but the teams are holding their offenses, and that's the crucial part.
Slicing across the pitch to Brayshaw. Brayshaw in the power position, has quite a few receivers. It's tipped off. No call. That is a clean D.
A dangerous D as well. Marquette getting into the right position, but you've got to catch those in these conditions. A bit more heads up from the Surly players. They might have been able to latch on to the end of that one.
Flynn, again, one of the main handlers for the defensive side of Molasses. Wilson. Kinley standing with his arms open, but he's not free. But neither was Oshiro. Surly getting another opportunity for a break. Sorry, hold. That soaring over top, there was a wide open receiver on the open side.
I like that look in front of the end zone. Slimmer was certainly wide open for about 2 seconds, but it was going to be a little bit of a difficult break throw to go for, so instead they try to loft it over the top, as there's just a little bit of discussion from the Surly team. Now, something that is interesting about this Surly defense is a big part of it is they're going for a no-around approach. They want to give up the IO where you have to, and at this level you're only going to be able to stop so much. And by giving up that IO, they're hoping to bait some of those quicker throws. They have a lot more speed on them, a lot more zip, a lot more difficult to corral on the offensive end. So we'll see how that stands to them, if they're able to limit the swinging breaks and force them into these difficult, tight windows.
So we're currently 4 apiece, trading downwind. It'll be interesting to see whether either of the teams are able to force a break in the upwind.
Surly got right up to the doorstep once with a fantastic shot into the wind. It's about picking your spots though, as you know yourself, this wind is blustery, it is gusty.
It's about choosing the right time that you want to take that break. Kaplan was free on the under. Ferguson took that on. Kaplan dumps it to Cook. Another slicing backhand. These throws are dangerous. Ferguson takes that shot on to the end zone for Anderson. And so far, Molasses have the cleanest offensive lines. Very few turnovers compared to the Surly side.
And those last 2 offensive holds were both flawless, which shows what we were talking about. They are growing into this game. You could see how smoothly they move down the pitch. But still no breaks. So Surly, doesn't matter how dirty it is as long as you get the job done. But this is just quick, effective play by Molasses. They're getting far more comfortable out here in these conditions. 5-4, but despite the turnovers, it has been a very evenly paced game. We've seen some nice concerted offense. We can see what both teams are trying to do with the execution, sometimes letting them down, which is understandable as you're first finding your feet on such a big stage here at the WMUCC Grandmasters Mixed Final. Both of these teams have their origins in Masters squads, their respective areas, as well as with their local communities. It's actually a huge amount of players who are all on this Molasses, or sorry, not the Molasses team, on this Surly team, coming from Hop, Surly, Hey Babe, so Idaho, Michigan, and just all over the country, but all with connections back to Minnesota.
And that's another pull soaring out of bounds.
Something that is interesting about both these teams, and in general, the fact that North America doesn't really have a Grandmasters mixed division means most of their cohesion has been built over the last week, and we'll see how strong it remains under these conditions.
So Surly keeping their structure very wide and quite deep. Maybe trying to promote some handler flow, but they are looking downfield at all times, looking instantly deep. They do have Brayshaw in the end zone. Clean offense. That throw was slick.
And that's exactly why we were told by the captains of Surly before the game, you've got to keep your eyes out for Grayshaw, as well as Exley, Reed, Bailey, Hunt also. But Grayshaw there just getting the separation. A beautiful shot all the way down to him in the end zone. And I think perhaps they heard what you said, Gigi, and they're like, okay, hold on. We can do it too. We can get a nice clean offense. Just have to line up the deep shot.
That went pretty much the full length of the pitch. Brayshaw was possibly going to be running out of end zone. Had maybe 2 meters left before having to make some sort of hero toe in, but thankfully not. It was weighted perfectly into his chest.
2 meters left, but it's all the space he needed. A fantastic throw. So again, the lack of training and the fact that cohesion is built over the week means that both these teams really focus on match defense, working together, communicating that way. So despite these conditions, while we may see a little bit of zone as they try to just unnerve opponents' offenses, throw a different look at them, it should be mostly person to person, body to body. Samantha Mumba, Irish legend.
That pull does stay in bounds. Ferguson checking it in on the sideline. Canetti strikes, but does not look to. Has Finn completely free, but instead takes Anderson. Finn still quite free. Canetti calling for Anderson to look to her.
It did seem like the force wasn't putting on a force, it was actually having a conversation.
Do you not do that when you play Frisbee? You just want to have a chat with people?
Normally I wait until we're both running deep. Well, back when I had breath. Now I can barely talk when I'm on the sideline.
So does eventually find Finn. Canetti cuts off the front of the stack. Is given that option. Canetti looking deep to Anderson. And again, we're seeing the deep ball being the best option for both sides going downwind.
Well, it was a great structure. Set themselves up with a beautiful, clean, deep look all the way down the pitch. And now that they're starting to get more accustomed to the situation, maybe more accustomed to the stakes, they are finding themselves with some big shots. And the comfort continues to grow. 6-5, still no break. And the turnovers have been considerably cut down as the first half has carried on. We're going to have another look at this big time deep shot. Smoothly out of the hands of Canetti and into the waiting breadbasket of Maddie Anderson. That adds a 13th goal to Maddie Anderson's WMUCC campaign. Unlucky for some, certainly his opponents.
Thank you very much to everyone who is staying active in the chat. We do see you, Sandy Canetti. I'm assuming a relative of the 24 shirt of Seth Canetti.
So we want to hear all the parents, we want to hear all the students, all the kids, all the spouses, just everybody. Let us know what you're feeling back home, and all that energy can be felt on the pitch. You got to believe, you got to send it to them.
The Hunt finds Exley. Brayshaw to Groman. Groman finds Exley again. Exley being dangerous on the field so far, sliding to the knees. Brayshaw just outside of the end zone. Arsurley able to convert. Looking for a dump, has one. Just outside the end zone. A lot of clustering going on. Huge force, it is dangerous, but instead takes the around break into Hunt. Another clean hold. I say clean, there weren't any stoppages or turnovers, but it was a little bit messy by the end zone.
I mean, Exley certainly got dirty sliding on his knees to get some of those collections as well. Some really great play by Mary Ellen Block, who doesn't like the disc to stagnate, keeps it moving, keeps rotating it around, and always remaining a threat, always keeping the defense on their heels. A key part of this Surly offense.
And it looks like both teams are taking a timeout. That is understandable. If you're wanting to try and keep up this momentum, figure out what's going to be happening, if you're wanting to have those discussions. And just as the players take a quick timeout and a pause, we will also take a timeout and a break. Grab a snack, grab a drink, and we'll see you in a few.
Right now, he's gonna have to bid. Oh, just a football.
Huge layout block, unbelievable stuff on the front corner of the end zone.
Maybe just that boost of energy they needed.
Huge swing pass and a great grab there from Spear.
And we are back.
At WMUCC from the University of Limerick, you are currently watching the Grandmaster Mixed final of Surly Grandmaster Mixed versus Molasses Disaster. They've currently been trading. It is 6-6. Lorcan, tell us, weave a little tale of this game so far.
Well, something that we were expecting coming into it from the Surly offensive side was that they were going to have to lean more into their men, be a bit more male-dominated than they have been so far in this tournament. And I was worried that was going to lead to a couple more miscommunications. Certainly if you were following their semi-final campaign at all, you realize just how crucial so many of their female players were. Now they're literally halved. So as this game progresses, they do seem to be getting more confident. Their turns have dropped, but I am worried about their energy levels. On the other side, Molasses have gone from strength to strength, mainly through the deep bowls. So we'll see if they keep that going.
Cook. Across to Anderson. Back over to Cook. There is an injury call. It's one of the Surly players takes a little stumble off. Being replaced by McGrath. And that was Michelson coming off.
McGrath getting it done on both sides of the disc so far this tournament. 7 assists, 5 goals. And it's a really even spread throughout, or sorry.
Cadetti looking at options, has Cook, does finally take that option in her. Cook dumping it off, really quick movement. Cook in the power position, has Anderson in the end zone, but much better read by Wen.
It was a lovely setup to get that deep shot, but I think Surly have made the correct adjustment. They've started to expect it being sent far down to the sideline.
Wen gets things moving again. Ike having a slight lapse in concentration. You're having to think that extra second in these windy conditions about catching that disc. There is some stoppage and discussion.
And just during that, a quick correction. It was Seaver coming off for Molasses. Oh no, sorry, it wasn't. We were right the first time.
Thank you. Again, we don't have any hand signals, so we're not sure exactly what the situation is on the field. But Canetti finding Cook, this connection is ridiculously strong. We will be saying that over and over again. And just in the front corner of the end zone. I cannot see the number, I believe that was Palmer for Molasses. Bringing it up to 7-6. They're 1 point away from taking half, but after a game of trades, I can almost expect that Surly are going to go for another hold.
Right now, we haven't really seen too many options. That was the D. Big and imposing. And they pick up for the quick play down to the end zone. Lovely leading pass. Cook was just about everywhere for Molasses on that point. And ooh, kneeing the line. Now, you rarely see that, but really well done by Jonathan Palmer, and that adds onto his total, his 10th. He's now in double digits for goals.
I think kneeling the line is probably avoided because knees are sensitive. You got to look after your knees, people.
I would also describe knees as imprecise. You don't see too many ballerinas focusing on that part of their body when they go for a pirouette.
The same Surly O-line that we've seen a few times now. Exley, but the run-through block from Seaver. There is a call.
Seaver, a very effective D-line handler for Molasses. I think Exley kind of slowed down, maybe invited that contact ever so slightly. You've got to be careful. You can't take the burners off at any moment.
That seems to be contested, so the disc will go back to the original thrower. The players are allowed to come up to the monitors on the sideline. We have seen them come up to us a few times. They are allowed to gauge what the call might be ruled to. And Exley slipping out the fingers. This rain is causing some havoc. Looking immediately deep. They have Rosinski. Rosinski is better defended. That was a very difficult disc to read.
Big and hanging, and exactly what we expected from Seaver, the D-line handler. As soon as that block, he rushed over to pick it up and launch it into the end zone. There was there was some contact. We're going to have another look. Really great hustle.
It's a difficult call to make because you could argue that the defender had to go through Brzezinski's shoulder in order to get to that disc, but there was another defender in the way. I'd imagine that the disc is probably going to go back to the original thrower.
I would have thought ever so slightly it looked like it's going to go back contested. You're entirely right, Gigi, as you have it a habit of being. But I would have thought maybe put the hand across ever so slightly as he was running, because he did have the inside track and he did seem to be moving faster. But that's one of the beauties of gaining position. You gain authority. And if anybody has to challenge that, your bodily authority generally results in a foul. So Seaver, once again, he's not afraid of putting it, as he's just demonstrated. But he's also got a nice little give-go game, so we'll see what Molasses do. He's on a bit of an island right now with 6 cutters all staring right at him.
Seaver finds Wilson to get this moving again. Dana being one of the players that was so dominant in Molasses semi-final. She was one of the stats leaders. She got some incredible blocks, some catches in the end zone. An incredibly strong player. Dana with a backhand over to Seaver. Seaver in the end zone trying to find Brzezinski again, but that is blocked.
Big time D. Surly cannot afford to let Molasses get that break and go into half. 8-6 up. We're going to have another look. It looked destined for a reception, but in the end, the party was crashed. Big layout D.
Surly do have the downwind advantage. The cuts are very deep, wanting to fake the deep option. Instead, takes the under, and that is blocked again by Dana. I called her earlier on. She's proving me right.
You saw it coming, Gigi, and that sticky defense that Molasses are so famous for this entire week coming to the fore. There's the timeout. Seaver recognizes how crucial this point is, as that stall count was getting higher and higher, and Surly, if you slow down, they are on your shoulder at all times. Such a huge block for Molasses.
Yeah, Dana coming in with the flying D, but the force from Brzezinski aided in that. And just as the players do take a quick break, we will also take a break. We will leave you with some messages. Welcome back to the coverage from Pitch 11 at the University of Limerick from the World Masters Ultimate Club Championships. We currently are coming back in from a timeout at the Grandmaster Mixed Final. Molasses, the D-line currently working hard for that break. And they find Brown, and they do have the break. That was Dana with the bookends.
Deserved, and to some people I'm sure expected. Dana has been an absolute force, and right when her team needs her most, she explodes onto the scene, getting the huge run through D on the under and the score. The antlers go up, the bookends completed. We're going to see Seaver one more time, starting that offense off, gets the beautiful shot inside, nicely taken straight into the chest by Cara Brown, and then she leads. Who else but that woman, Angela Dana, for the score. 8-6, the first break of the game goes to Molasses to take half, and that is exactly what everybody back in Boston was hoping to see.
So after a long game of trades, a fair few stoppages, first half of the half, so the first quarter of the game is probably a better way to say it, had a lot of turnovers, but now Molasses, having cleaned things up a bit, they're wanting to show that they are dominant and probably trying to use those extra legs that they have to their benefit. Taking the half, 8-6. And just as the players take a quick break, we will see you again in about 5 minutes. Grab a snack, grab something to drink, grab a cup of coffee. We will see you soon.
Bad boy up. Oh, I missed.
Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in the world watching this final from the Grandmaster Mixed Division. Molasses Disaster has taken half over Surly Grandmaster Mixed. I am Gigi Morrison, joined in the booth by Lorcan Murray. Lorcan, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling fantastic. I mean, we get to be here with the wonderful teams, the wonderful crew representing WFDF and Ultimate the Sport. WFDF is a federation of 107 member associations which represent flying disc sports and their athletes in more than 103 countries. And right now we're here in Europe's premier sporting campus, the University of Limerick.
So Surly starting out on offense for the second half. Looking immediately deep. They have Brayshaw. Brayshaw has the read. An instant timeout call in front of the end zone. That is an interesting call. Not something I would have traditionally called, but I'm not the one playing on the pitch right now.
The timeout straight after halftime, not to be expected, but we also had another wonderful surprise during halftime. The cheer section for Molasses Disaster decided to grace us with an appearance and help lift their team. So we'd love to share that with you.
A lot of families, a lot of family members are in and around the tournament supporting their teams.
It's been such a wonderful dynamic at this event because you have all these generations who help build the sport of Ultimate, who help establish it in a lot of instances, these coaches, and then they've all brought their kids, so you can see the next generation as well on the rise. It is inspiring, it is delightful as we see Surly coming out of this timeout, hopefully not a turnout, as they cannot afford to give up another break. They're going to pick this up just outside of the end zone and set up for a quick isolation cut.
That was the whistle from the volunteers telling them to get the disc moving, and they do comfortably hunt for the first points of the second half. Another hold, but Surly have some ground to make up after Molasses had gotten a break in the first half.
So 8-7, Molasses in the lead and in the driver's seat. That one break proving to be the difference, starting off on offense, and now they just have to hold going this direction to make it all the way to the top of the podium and that gold medal waiting for them. We will have the medal ceremony after this game as well, as we have another look, calling the timeout, setting up the play, and then just a great up-the-line strike by Daniel Hunt for the score.
That is one of the benefits of taking a timeout, is that the offense is able to restructure and recenter, regroup each other and themselves, maybe have a discussion as to what the thrower is looking for, especially if things start to look a little bit of a mess. If you send a disc deep when you've got nobody else around you, that timeout can be extremely beneficial.
Absolutely. I also want to give a quick shout out to our bracket who is supporting Molasses in Limerick, Ireland, all the way from Limerick, Maine. So a little bit of a Limerick to Limerick connection. We appreciate the love.
Molasses O-line, one that we've seen dominate so far in this game. Kaplan finds Palmer on the sideline. Down to Knessy. There has been a collision downfield. Neubecker having to stand up again.
We haven't had I don't know if I should even say that out loud, otherwise we might start seeing more. We haven't seen too many picks so far in this game. There's been real good clean cutting, really great structure on display from both teams as their experience coming to the fore.
That looks like Ike has taken an injury sub. The disc has gone back into the hands of Palmer. Palmer looking for a dump option. Well marked out, does find Kaplan towards the center of the pitch. Ferguson Finds Neubecker just outside the end zone. And Ferguson strikes up the line. Super easy and casual.
So Molasses keep on the pressure. They have been doing this all game long, especially for the last few points. They have looked largely unperturbed by the defensive influence of Surly GMX. A team that are affectionately known as the Space Race. And they're going to need to get their rockets firing if they don't want to be overtaken in this matchup and left behind in the dust. Molasses' offense has been so clean and composed since about halfway through the first half. That wasn't an easy catch. You look at that and you think, oh yeah, Ferguson, he's got that all day. By no means an easy catch. That goal makes it his 7th, and that's to go along with the absolute collection of assists he had. 22 coming into this game.
Ferguson is usually somebody behind the disc. Obviously, as you can tell by the stats under his name, having more assists than goals. Surly getting their offense started. A lot of pressure on defense. Molasses trying to force them under, being a bit more aggressive. Hunt finds a really good lead option to Brayshaw. Brayshaw finds an under. Quickly moving across, finds Exley again. Brayshaw into the end zone. Well collected. Slimmer with another goal.
And this is more of what we expected when we were coming into this matchup. Both teams with these composed offenses clearing the space for each other. There was a selection of execution errors in the first half, certainly in the early exchanges. So we see Exley with the disc, but now they have definitely both calmed down, felt themselves into this game. Brilliant play. Brayshaw put that one out there into the space, and for a second I thought it might be going all the way out the sideline, but Slimmer was able to collect it. Brayshaw has been really big in this game. We're talking about some of the more silent players. Brayshaw has only got 5 goals, and I think that might be his first assist so far of the tournament. But in lieu of some of their more established female players, Brayshaw has absolutely stepped up, getting his first 2 goals to add to his 4 he already had, and getting 4 assists, coming into this game with none. So really stepping up and delivering exactly what Surly need when they need it. But right now they need a break. Let's see if they can get it.
I was going to say that he quadrupled his stats, but 4 times 0 is 0, so that would be completely incorrect.
Quick maths.
But Molasses, Canesi, immediately looking deep. That is starting to float out the sideline and picked off by Ike.
And
cleaned up the mess.
Once again, sneaking in there and getting the big time block. You can't throw it near Ike. She is a constant threat on the defensive end. This is a big possession from Surly.
And Ike unable to catch the one, just slips out the hands, but there is a call.
It's going to go back to a travel on the far sideline, so even though the turn, because it was on the second throw, it will go all the way back. You can kind of understand the Molasses defense, slight frustration at that development.
Because you can't really retract a travel call like that after it's further moved on to eventually generate a turnover. So check back in again. Looking immediately deep, but Canesi picks that one up, almost got the second reception.
Catchered. It's been a week in these conditions. You have to learn that lesson by now.
That was Munsterhouse bidding for that one, trying to save it for Surly, but Molasses clean and collect, widening the margin again to 10-8.
Really great score, really great work by Molasses. They got turned, so Surly have certainly got something that they can build on going forward, a little bit of positivity. We know we can get the disc off them, but they just have real difficulty moving it from left to right. And the wind really isn't so much of a factor anymore, it's just really raining. So I wouldn't be surprised. I'm a little surprised that Surly haven't been able to get right back up onto the doorstep. We saw in the first half on that one occasion, as we have another look there, at the quick shot to the end zone. Really well weighted around throw. I thought that was rather risky, but York went right up that hill and right back down again with the disc for the score.
This has been a tough week of games. We are in day 6 of, I mean, most players will be playing 6 days. These players will only be playing 6 days, some will be playing 7. It's been a long week, and when you are starting to get down to a smaller roster size like Surly are, it's got to take its consequences. And so it must be an even steeper hill to climb, particularly after Molasses have taken that break. There is a 2-point gap, and they are currently trading downwind again. Hunt finds the high release over to Slimmer. Slimmer having gotten a good few blocks so far in this game. And again, Slimmer rises. High release flick over the top, Oshiro, and then picked up again by Rosinski. Looking for Oshiro, but just too difficult.
I was just getting ready to praise him for catching that D as well.
Surly have actually gained a few yards from that D there. Brayshaw over to Bailey. Bailey not liking his options, takes on the inside shot to Brayshaw. There is a pick.
I thought that was a phenomenal cut by Brayshaw, just a classic 7 cut. Looked like he was going to the open side for the arcing flick around. A little bit risky in these conditions. Instead, he plants his foot, leaves his defender going far off from where the intended position was, cuts back across. It takes a tough shot, but that's exactly what he got for the score, and 10-9. Surly with another chance to get the crucial break they need.
A very good spirit so far from both sides. They were able to say, hey, yeah, there was a pick, but I don't think that affected me being able to stop you from getting that. So we see that wonderful inside shot again.
Reed Bailey was waiting patiently like a coiled snake for that cut to mature, and then just snapping out a beautiful flick break. So Surly very much staying in it, and again, really impressive performance, pulling together as a team as they have done all week and rising to this occasion. 10-9, but they need a break. Can they channel the spirit of Curtis Blow and force their way back into this matchup? The wind has made something of a return.
They still have plenty of time and plenty of opportunities. Games do run to 100 minutes, so we have about 35 minutes left of regulation game time. That is if the teams don't reach a point cap before then. So Knessi with a high release to Ferguson. Finds Kaplan. Kaplan having to go to ground, but bounces right back up. Kaplan not liking the options. Does find Cook. Anderson maybe not expecting that, but takes it in stride. And again, another shot from Cook that Anderson wasn't expecting, but well reeled in.
She was mixing up something in that kitchen with those beautiful fakes, pulling apart the defense, moving them around, cutting, chopping, changing, sauteing in the end, and it's a delicious backhand break for the score and a Molasses timeout at an 11-9 advantage, and calling it before going out on the D-line. So that's an interesting timeout, but I do always agree with timeouts. They're taken in between points rather than ones that are taken during points. So, as we have another look at just beautiful backhand break, and initially set up with a fantastic fake from Cook just before that.
We will take a couple minutes break with you as well. If you're having some breakfast, hope you're enjoying yourselves watching the live stream from wherever you are in the world. We will be back with you in a moment. Welcome back to the second half of this Grand Master Mixed Final from WMUCC, from the University of Limerick. I can't really say it's sunny, sunny Limerick. It's slightly windy, rainy Limerick.
It's a title, not a promise. It is Sunny, Sunny Limerick, all capital letters.
So are they screaming sunny, sunny Limerick?
I mean, title, prayer, lost hope. It's all of the above, really. I mean, I forget how most people aren't used to it raining like 60% of their lives. And all I can say to the people raised in England is, you're welcome. Limerick, the windbreaker for the UK.
We have bad weather too.
Just not as much of it.
That is true. Molasses, after their timeout, are coming out with a poachy zone defense. This is quite aggressive.
So now we can see why they took that timeout, so they could talk about their structure, their strategy. They're hoping to clamp down on this Surly team, really run their slower, lower lines into the ground.
Certainly with a fantastic backhand, but there might be a foul on that one.
It's going to go back for a travel, understandable, as we have another look at it.
It didn't look like he traveled.
That wasn't a travel. You can't contest a travel, so.
Hunt looking for that option again. Instead takes the overhead. Difficult read, but well collected just off of the ground. Slimmer doing so well to make sure that that did not hit any blades of grass. Now Surly off to the races. Molasses opting for match defense. Brzezinski going in for the bid. And in the end zone, there is going to be some discussion. Everyone has paused and frozen in place.
He enjoys the old layout backhands. He's a big man and he likes using that extended frame to stretch around the mark and shoot to the end zone.
Exley has that goal. There is some discussion still, but I feel like if you call it a goal enough times, somebody's going to believe you.
I have that approach with several things. Just keep saying it. Much like Sunny Sunny Limerick.
And Slimmer's catch there, the overhead option coming at the high stall count, and her being able to make sure that she had both hands in the right place before she could actually get it towards the turf.
That's a lovely pass. The big bidding form, not quite enough. And that is a cheeky backhand. Quickly called for a score.
It almost
Quite
looked
fairly.
like Darling wasn't necessarily calling anything, but was just staring at him, thinking the absolute cheek of you to bid and throw at the same time.
Brah! Brah! I've seen that look before. And it's an understandable one. They're starting to maybe style and profile a little bit out here on this pitch. They've gone from uncertain to comfortable to confident. And now they're looking to put on a show for all the fans joining us around the world, especially the ones in America. Molasses Disaster with their origins in the Boston and New York ultimate scenes.
Surly answering back to Molasses' last point with a zone of their own. Believe that this is an FSU. So some aggressive handler movements, trying to stop or at least force the overheads and some longer shots so they can attack onto it.
I like this zone in these conditions, but a crucial element is that you trap on the sideline and you don't like throws like that through the middle.
Canetti now in a very advantageous position. Finds Hibbard. Hibbard into the end zone, giving Molasses a clean hold.
Clean in terms of no turnovers. Again, sliding on the ground and muddying those beautiful white jerseys, all in the name of glory. And this is exactly what Surly can afford. If you allow Molasses to just trade with you for the rest of this game, they're going to carry out the victory. I like the fact that they switched up to a zone look, but as we can see here again, even with the transition to match defense, it comes too late. And there's the quick swing all the way around, getting low and getting the grab for a score. So 12-10, so little between these teams. It could all change in an instant. As we have another look at the score. Molasses really doing a great job of taking their time, surveying their options, not forcing anything. So maybe a matter of, okay, we tried the zone, it didn't even nearly work, so we'll just go back to match-to-match defense. We've seen them get turns with the match defense, just haven't been able to capitalize on those turns.
I do like the zone look. As you said, I do like it as well, but they need to use the zone in the way it's supposed to be intended. It has to be aggressive. So they, like, certainly know that Molasses can absolutely break any force. They need to be extremely aggressive. They need that mullet to be in tight with the handle marks as well. They cannot let those dicey shots go through, so they have to take the overhead options. But for now, we have Surly's O-line again up against the zone, as we see how aggressive Molasses are in comparison. They're trying to get some cuts up. They do find Slimmer on the far side. Diving, but Exley picks that one up. Taking on the swing.
Great work against the zone. Beautiful swings. Nice high release to Exley down the line.
Quick release into the end zone. I would say it's clean again. It is. That was beautiful. Those quick passes are so dangerous.
Once they break through the initial jaws of the zone, they go straight down the throat of the defense with quick continuation passes along the line. A little bit risky to go with the high release backhand leading pass when the wind is blowing into our faces and into the cameras. Danger that's getting pushed down. For a moment it looked like it might. We're going to have another viewing there. So close. Fortunately, Exley was there to clean it up. Great work by the defensive handler marks initially, but once you're through the zone, those first imposing few stages, so much space in the backfield, you force players to come, and then you've got open areas to attack. And well taken in the end by the streaking form of Reed Bailey.
We have seen that high release backhand being used as an option really often, and it's come off pretty much every time. It sits in the wind really well, and as teams start to actually gauge that that is an option that they need to take on, they've just been running with it.
Well, it's an option for people who have incredible technique. I was never really able to get the kind of snap. The high release backhands that you'll see a lot of, certainly in Ireland and in Europe and some of the lower levels of tournaments, people pop them up and they flutter like a spinning disc running out of energy, just wobbling from side to side. These ones are coming out flat. They're just coming out perfectly with plenty of sit for people to run onto them.
That sounds like a you problem, Lorcan. And that pull floats, falling around about the brick mark. As you called earlier on, Surly not liking that zone, so they've gone back to their match defense. Ferguson having to dump it off to Cook. Cook not liking the options coming underneath, but does eventually find Kinetti. Kinetti having to go to his knees. Wants the deep, takes a slightly longer under option instead into Hibbard. Ferguson with that high release backhand again, over to Kaplan. Ferguson, not very many cuts coming off. Having to extend the field just a little too high in the wind. That is dangerous. Surly now have an opportunity for a break.
This is a big moment for the Minnesotans. How do they respond with a beautiful backhand?
That is another high disc, but with a tall receiver like Nord, how can you not resist? And the pressure D is real, Lorcan.
Incredible stickiness by the downfield match defense, and Jonathan Palmer gets all of his surname onto that bit of plastic.
That is a blessing for Molasses. They almost gave it up. There has been a foul call.
That's an offensive foul, claiming the push off. Interesting. You don't see too many of those, but a lot of the time, there's an argument to be made you can call those.
Players asking the opinion of the game advisors. Slight difference between the US and WFDF rules is that the game advisors' opinion is not final. The game advisors can clarify some rules and they can give their perspective, but they're not allowed to say, okay, this is what happened, that is that.
Just a slight gripe I've always had with the name. So you have a game observer and a game advisor, and the observers have authority, the advisors don't.
I'd find it hilarious if they took it a bit too literally and the game observers could say nothing and just watch.
They are the silent watchers from the sideline. And all they can do is give you a disapproving look. You just kind of look over and it's as if you stole something from the kitchen your ma said you couldn't have.
That sounds like that comes from experience. But Molasses getting underway quickly. Kaplan moving down the sideline to Hibbard. Just past Cook. And Surly again with an opportunity.
Unfortunately, that throw was overcooked. See, that's the disapproving look I'm talking about.
If only Cook could hear you. That disc rising Ferguson picks it off. This is now a trade of turnovers. Cook into the end zone, finds Anderson, but there is another call.
So that will go back again. We are starting to see a bit of a recession into the opening points. Oh, no, it seems like a couple of Surly members are calling that as a score. And by a couple, I mean basically one of them.
One's enough, right?
I mean, generally, if you're making a call against your team, one person is enough for the rest of the team to go, all right, grand. And if Daniel Hunt is the one putting up his hands, you're like, oh, fair, okay, I trust that perspective. So that's going to be a score. Unfortunate. Oh, no, they're going to keep talking about it, but this is a big moment for Surly. They need to get this break. They've had a few chances, and they really struggled to get passes together.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that they are starting to have some discussions. Surly wanting to hold their ground as much as possible, but obviously, as a self-refereed sport, Ultimate Frisbee is governed under spirit of the game.
And WFDF is also a signatory to the World Anti-Doping Code and is a registered not-for-profit 501c3 corporation in the state of Colorado, USA. As we're going to have another look at this shot from Cook, who has just been so crucial to everything Molasses have done all week and is coming to the fore again here in this final. That's the call. It's going to be considered a goal. That'll make it 13-11 as Molasses keep that advantage they gained from both starting on serve and getting a break in the first half. They have been consistent, they have been confident, they have been everything you need to be when the stakes are at their highest. But Surly are far from out of it.
Yes, 100%. We saw Surly applying some pressure, bringing up the heat, starting to make Molasses scared.
Starting to make Molasses into rum, maybe? They certainly were able to reapply that pressure, get a couple of turns. The first turn as well saw them get those continuation cuts that they've really lacked. Something that has been really struggling for Surly is their D-line offense. They've gotten the turns, and then they've more than once anyway, turned on the first throw back.
Thank you very much to everyone who is tuning in on the WFDF YouTube channel. Welcome to the live stream from Pitch 11 at WMUCC from the University of Limerick. We're very happy to see you here in this Grandmaster Mixed Final. Surly versus Molasses Disaster. Surly now on offense, moving downwind. Exley had Bailey completely free, but didn't like the options. Does decide to take it on. Bailey wanting the deep. Stall count now rising. Has to take the offhand backhand to Exley. Exley and Bailey running the show for this Surly line. Brayshaw down the line immediately to Exley and trying to get it off the bubble.
Unfortunate for Exley. This disc is not easy to corral at all. The rain continues to pound down. A shout out to our old GTV crew and Edgar just standing out there facing the elements with nothing but an anorak and a love of the game.
Wilson for Molasses does find Oshido. The inside flick, both of the flick throws have been incredible. Does find Dana. Dumping it off to Flynn. Flynn calling a timeout. Veteran move.
I would agree. I'd make an exception for this timeout. You get to halfway, you're trying to go against the grain up into what limited wind there is. There's always a risk of a gust coming. I seem to have summoned one with that sentence. So you take this. A lot of times it can lead to a turnout, but it's a risk worth taking when your reward will be a 14-11 lead and the opportunity for a downwind break to seal the game and take home the gold. So this will be a big moment, and we're just going to take a little break before we bring it back to you.
Welcome back to the coverage from Field 11 at the University of Limerick from WMUCC. We are coming back in from a timeout. Molasses Disaster, their D-line, trying to work for their second break of the game. Flynn, darting, jinking. Wilson having to take the high throw, does find Seaver. Brzezinski. Taking to the knees, that was Derling. Derling into the turf, that is down, has been confirmed. No contest to that at all.
Very fair-minded, understood. Kind of one of those, oh, big shot!
Immediately looking deep for Hunt, but better read by Seaver. What a reaction, Lorcan.
I apologize, I was focused on the spirit and that moment, you know, where it hits the ground and winds up in your hands. You're disappointed, but you have to admit it. Wasting no time, Surly, trying to go back. But this gives another chance for the break to Molasses Disaster.
It does put them in a much better position as well, because Molasses have to work it up the entire length of the pitch. They're not wanting to waste any time. But Seaver and Wilson just moving it back and forth to each other in the backfield. There are no cuts currently coming. Brzezinski is free on the under, and it is finally taken. Brzezinski looking deep for his own deep shot of his own, finding Flynn. You would think that this is the other way around. Can Flynn read it? But a lot of defenders in the way, and currently straddling one of them.
So we're just going to have a quick game of miniature tanks, or perhaps climbing on top of each other. There's going to be a foul call. There was a lot of bodies underneath that when something hangs that long. And I guess I generally have a rule, which is the amount of players who are able to get themselves involved, it kind of lowers the legitimacy of any foul call. So if something hangs there long enough and it's one-on-one, foul call fair. If it hangs there as like 2, 3, 4 players, you're going to start to see a little drop. And then if there's like 6 or 7, you're like, okay, whatever happens here, everybody's going to get fouled. You can't call that one. That, I think, is a pretty fair call. So it's going to go back.
I completely agree with you, Lorcan, with having 2 defenders and 1 receiver in the way. It is difficult to be able to tell who would have eventually come down with the disc and what contact was influential and what was incidental. Brzezinski takes the beautiful inside backhand. That one rises, but again, a tall receiver is too tempting. That was Derling on the reception. Diving catch on the knees. Wilson. Another high shot over the top, but snapped up by Slimmer.
Catching her D's.
Surly now working down their O-line, trying to stay comfortable and cool and collected. Brayshaw was looking for the deep option, but did not like it. A big under, Hunt with the one-handed grab. Exley again, really keeping this offense alive. Into the end zone. That was clean. Defenders were too far off to stop that.
Really fantastic offensive recovery by Surly. For a moment, they came within 1 huck of really being out of this game. Instead, they're fighting right back into it, 13-12, still searching for that ever-elusive break, showing you just how close things are between these teams. And it's strange, you know, you go from one possession that has multiple turnovers, slight execution errors, and then you see things like this, which is just textbook offense with a little bit of after-school style thrown in. The twist, flick, break, and then just putting just enough edge to carry that away. Can you hear the chorus rising on the sideline like a grumpy choir forced to wake up too early on a Sunday morning? Sir Lee is the chant. Can we hear it echoed in the chat? It is a big moment, 13-12 down. They need a break.
There are a lot of Surly teams at this tournament. I feel like I look at the next game that I'm supposed to be commentating and I see it's Surly and I was like, oh, again? Another one? Am I doing the same team? No.
All of these iterations around. Also the Pumas, whose origins 10 years ago actually lie with Surly as well, growing out of that club. Just again, like we said with the Minnesota Youth Ultimate Scene, it shows you how deep it runs up there in the north.
And that pull floats. Chosen not to brick it, Ferguson, and instead taking it from the sideline. Tries to look for Knessi. Knessi does get free, but finds the safe hands of Anno. It does eventually reach Knessi, wanting to look for the deep. Anderson on the under. Has Ferguson. Again, Molasses are being forced underneath rather than trying to get to those deep shots. Knessi jinks up the line. Looking forward to the end zone, has Neubecker, but it's tipped off by Ike.
Getting big and knocking that one away. That was a massive defensive block, and that's what we've come to expect. There was nothing sneaky about that one. It was just a big, powerful block. And again, like you said, they were forcing the unders. A brilliant cut in the end zone. Seemed to shake off Ike, but she was able to get up and get that block in the end. So can Surly mount a comeback? Can they get this crucial break and tie up the game? They're looking to fight their way all the way back up the pitch. You can see they've brought on some of their heavy hitters for this point. That is the form of Slimmer at number 8, but there's the turnover into the middle.
Yuen maybe misinterpreting the wind, not too tight of a grip on that disc. You're wanting to hold on to that disc a little bit tighter whenever you're working in really strong windy conditions like this. There is a pick call, but there hasn't been any disc play going on yet.
Okay, just a bit of contact.
The hammer. Looks at Ferguson. Finds Finn. Finn being a huge role for this Molasses side. Another pick has been called.
So maybe things getting a little too physical out there. A lot of fans of Olivia Newton-John, I'm sure, taking it a bit too far.
Things get moving again. Anno is wide open. High release backhand over the top to Ferguson. Mere meters away from the end zone. Fakes the push pass. Has Anno cutting. Chooses to take Canetti instead. Surly doing really well to shut anything down, but finds Ferguson in the front corner of the end zone. They are 1 point away from taking this win and the gold medal.
Taking it all the way back to the East Coast. But it's summer, despite what you may be seeing on screen. It is summer, and there is, as typical for summer, a storm rising in the Midwest. Will they be able to strike back into this matchup? 14-12, they've run out of runway. So we have another look at this lovely little dish into the end zone. Great clearing to open up the space at that front corner, and a big around break to Ferguson for the score, 14-12.
One thing you'll notice from the more dominant teams, they tend to have been American teams, but we do see this from other nations as well.
Like Canada?
Colombian teams as well. some of the more powerful teams in Europe, you'll see how quickly they are able to move the disc. So as soon as it's caught, they're already looking to throw it immediately, and that means that the defense is on their back foot. They do not have an opportunity to get set up, and that is so dangerous. But Surly wanting to get this hold to keep themselves in this battle. The around dump, force almost getting in the way. And this deep shot comes off. Brzezinski is in position, but instead it does find the 33 of Brayshaw. Push pass into the end zone for Barton. Barton with the Star Wars leggings.
And that throw was out of this world. The over-the-top break push pass. Well, I guess once you pop, you just can't stop, as Brayford gets another stat. His incredible performance in this finals, stepping up to the plate to help fill the gap left by so many of the players that Surly were unfortunately not able to bring with them to this big-time game. He has been involved in 9 of their scores as he gets on the end of that massive huck, looks, surveys, waits, sees the open player and just thinks, well, I know how to get it there if I was playing back in the Minnesota Rec League. So, I mean, if it works there, why wouldn't it work here? Great question, asked and answered.
I mean, you say that. That's actually a tactic that a lot of people will try to apply in terms of recentering themselves. They will say, I'm just in a pitch, I'm just in a field, playing some frisbee with my friends. Keep it calm, keep it cool, keep it casual. And that seems to have been effective with that really ambitious push pass into the end zone.
That is it exactly. Life is a series of moments, and we will be back with the crucial ones in the Grandmaster Mixed Division after a quick break. Oh no, I thought they were going for a timeout. They're just having a nice little powwow, it seems, as Molasses Disaster are already on the line and ready to go. So we will keep it here with the action. We don't want to miss a second of this, Gigi.
That is a nice mental power play from Molasses in a way. They see Surly circling up, but they're ready on the line.
Oh, you guys need to talk about something, do you? Oh no, we're kind of locked in. We're pretty certain of what we're doing, and why wouldn't they be? They haven't given up a single break so far this game. Surly have spent very little time in their half even trying to go in that direction. And Molasses Disaster, one more hold for the gold. Can they do it?
Just to give you a feel for this game, it has gotten so heated that I have had to unzip my jacket for the first time this morning.
I just really want to emphasize how big a deal that is. That is a risky decision to make in these conditions.
But this game is tight. Surly are not rushing and getting this pull going. But Hunt with the pull for Surly. It is floaty, but Ferguson captures it with strong hands. There's a lot of space in the center. Canetti is wide open. It is taken on. He has to go to his knees after his defender had slipped. This grass is extremely slippery. Takes the around to Cook. Cook fakes. Back over to Canetti.
And you'll probably notice that there has been a quick switch, but it's led to a gender mismatch.
Anderson goes for the bobble, but it is blocked.
There's gonna be a call. So these are the moments where you have to rely on your fair-mindedness, and you cannot. It was a big-time hand block by Ryan Osterreich. Uncontested foul. Not giving into the cheers and jeers coming from the natural stadium behind us, otherwise known as a hill.
So Anderson dumps off to Canetti. Canetti fakes the hammer twice. There is a pick downfield. Things getting clustered and close in the stack.
And he has to look downfield because right now Ike is putting the clamps on in the defensive handler position.
Ferguson. Another one of the strong handlers for this Molasses O-line. Canetti does choose the hammer this time, and into the hands. Molasses Disaster are the Grandmaster Mixed winners for 2022. My goodness, what a game. They have been dominant this whole time. We saw a game of trades, but after that break, it was off to the races.
It's been a tight game all match long. In the end, it was that one break in the first half that Molasses Disaster were able to get off that was so critical to their efforts. 15-13, it's going to end. So now, the Masters champions from the last World Championships, reigning Masters Mixed champions, they all aged into the Grand Masters division, and they're going to take a title with them there as well. A massive congratulations to the team, everybody back home who is cheering them on. A special shout out goes to Mike Miller, the coach at home. You are responsible for this, for bringing this team together. They are so indebted to you for your commitment to the squad, and that is a big win going all the way out to everybody in Boston and New York and the ultimate communities that have really helped build up these players, and they have given back to in turn. The championship glory is theirs. Commiserations to Surly. They have absolutely nothing to feel bad about. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of disappointment, but you have done your team and your community incredibly proud, and you deserve to go and enjoy some of the fine IPAs that we have here as well.
Yes, and thank you very much to everyone who has tuned in from wherever you are in the world. We have been Lorcan Murray and Gigi Morrison. Remember that this game is copyrighted World Flying Disc Federation 2022. Please do stay tuned. We have some more action coming up for you today. Thank you very much for joining us.
Fáilte.tv